for your time this morning. I'm Elizabeth, and I have on the speakerphone here, in this little box, I got Terry Bartlett that's going to be doing some of the demo, and but I'm going to be doing the PowerPoint overview. With the company did grow up in Western Washington, though, so we're pretty familiar with this area. I still have a couple staff over here. I'm just going to go over LiGO, and I'm really doing more of an overview and tell you sort of some of the interesting things you can do with collecting data in the field and things you can do with pushing it out into other business systems. And it's not that big a group, so yeah, if there's something particularly interesting you're seeing here, just raise your hand, ask a question, and we'll answer it right there while we have it on the screen. So just a little bit about us. We've been around Esri GIS partners since before there was partnerships there with Esri, and really grew the company in integrating GIS data with business systems, work and asset management systems, and wrote commercial code for Infor, wrote our own commercial code under the term GeoConnect mobile product, and so just kind of put our heads together. So, what can we do that's interesting and scalable, where things are going in the machine-to-machine market, and came up with LiGO. So we've got LiGO, it's using AVL, but it's very smart in the way it can play with Esri GIS and business. So our target for this product is really anyone that's got their folks out in the field doing work. And so that you can kind of see what's going on, get a better feel for what's going on out in the field, similar to the way you do in an office when the people are right next door. So the things that are important that we're seeing, and some of the things that differentiate us are, we've been around 22 years, I'm an old person in the industry, but also interoperability with GIS. You know, everyone's got 5 billion systems. I don't know how many systems right here on this tabletop. We don't want to learn another system. We just want more useful information, maybe in the systems that we use already today. Whether that's my email, and I get a report of something going on, an exception of information to me as a manager that I want to know what's happened out there. Or maybe I want to see how my data, I want to change what my GIS features are based on what's going on out in the field. Or maybe I want to create automated work orders based on what's going on in the field. And so that's where things get kind of interesting. It's got to be simple. It's got to be fairly fast and accurate. And really, a lot of folks just want to have a kind of customized report for what's interesting to them. So those are the things that we're picking up from people that are important. The product LiGO is actually Latin for connect, which is actually where Lego comes from, ligament. So the idea is to connect folks in the field to you, plays well with GIS and other business systems, but we'll show you some of that in the demo part of the presentation. I'm just going to do a quick tour of LiGO. This is the user interface that you see. Out of the box, it comes with Google Maps, but we can look at any ArcGIS server application for people that are GIS people. Of course, there's the concept of vehicles, but really it's an asset of value to you. So that can be a vehicle, it could be your phone or a tablet. It could also be any high-value thing out there that moves around that you put a tracking device on. So there's a lot of flexibility on what we can track. Then it tracks. So I like to say form follows function. You got hiking boots and running shoes for different things. It's more like a running shoe in that it's collecting a bunch of time series data in a regular old, SQL Server relational database. And we're collecting that up to 2 years, and we can go a little longer if that's important. Some people want us to delete data after a few months. Depends on the customer. So we're just collecting all that track data, and the track data has data associated with it, especially things called events. So events are where things get kind of interesting. Events can be something that you've heard about before with AVL, like speeding or left the yard or idling. But it can also be collect all the data for when the sweeper's down in service area 1 between 8 and 5. That can be an event that's a piece of data that's important to somebody. And it may be data that you want to see showing up maybe in Lucity or CityWorks. There are a couple of the business systems that you use here. So we'll show you a little bit about it then. Reporting, pretty flexible. Within about 10 minutes, you can teach somebody how to create a report that shows up in their inbox. One of the things, like when you're using Caster, a key data element is the odometer data and being able to feed that to different systems. So it's really easy to create a standing report, shows up to different managers or supervisors in different ways. Because usually you're not going to sit around staring at the screen, watching vehicles drive around. That's not the main use of that. Of course, there's geofences. You can create geofences right on the screen with the application itself, or you can import. You get, service area boundaries within GIS. You can import those and use those. If you have a route, a linear feature, you can create an instant geofence around that route. So you can say, you can look at metrics for how much are my staff spending time inside the route versus outside the route, and look at metrics that tell you more about your operation. There's a maintenance aspect to the vehicle. We can track some level of maintenance data, or we can just push the odometer or other trigger data like that over into systems like Caster. It's set up as an enterprise, application so that if you're a parks person, you log in, all you'll see is parks data that's important to you for managing parks. We can create these different views so you only see, different vehicles and associated layers that are important to you. And there is a functionality that allows you to do jobs and dispatch, so you just right-click and send a job to somebody. They can receive it on any connected device, anything from there's these new Garmin. I'm turn this on. I'll pass it around, but this is just an Android device, but it's got really nice tools to tell you how to get from A to B. It's gotten a lot better than the Garmin's that we personally own, or an iPhone or anything like that. You can just do the job. And the UI for the jobs is super simple. Hit start, it tracks time to job, time at job, and time complete. So there's some interesting data there. You can start to understand and see what's going on. So this is sort of how it works. We've got James Underwood here from Verizon. We are partner with Verizon. So we're able to provide, the entire Verizon network to you at a pretty inexpensive price, using there as a machine-to-machine kind of development partner. Then, the devices in the field connecting to GPS, that data keeps pushing up into the cloud, and then you access it from any connected device. For the devices we use, that we use these little, in the vehicles, we use CalAmp devices. And I'm going into a little bit about why we've done that. So, trying to figure out, what to call this system. We've been calling it SaaS for a while, but really it's a PaaS. It's a platform as a service. So the idea is that this is a platform that can feed a variety of different things that are going on in your different departments and divisions. So platform as a service, and there's like two areas where this society where this is really growing. One is on the sensor side. And all the different sensors that can pick up things going on, anything from heartbeat, really. You see some of the sensors out there in a near vehicle, including driver ID. That's one that Soundtrans is using. Streamlining that data that's going into the database. The other area is a lot of opportunity for value, pushing the data. We've got a web service where we expose data, and you can collect that data and feed in different systems that I consider as video systems. We do what we call smart tracking, and these vehicle devices, you can actually, with some archaic 1960s level programming language, program these things. We're working on a system to change that. We're actually programming on Android, but we can program these things so that if you go a certain distance, turn a certain angle, go a certain amount of time, and select a point. And so what we're doing is we're only selecting a point for these little things here. So it's something interesting. rather than every second or every minute, no matter what, we're going to throw a point up. We only do it when something interesting happens. A couple of advantages: we're not fire hosing data up to LiGO, creating data load issues to the Verizon network. But one nice thing that comes out of that is our tracking for GIS people. We're wanting to overlay stuff for some of this data. That's important. So you get a real-time view of your operations. I think this is a view of sound transit. But also, almost more important, is you have this historical database that you can go back and look at metrics and understand what's going on in a way you probably couldn't see of your operations before. So that data's just sitting there. You can come up with a new question and ask it that data a year after it happened and say, well, let me see how many times, what's the ratio of time we spent in the dump zone versus actually out there sweeping, and get that data after the fact. So looking and analyzing some of your historical data is quite helpful. Plus, you're always getting calls saying, hey, you took my mailbox out, you swiped my card. And, of course, your county cars look like any other utility vehicle out there, so you could quickly go and prove you weren't there, were there, whatever. A lot of people are spending lots of time trying to prove they weren't there or were there when they get called. So to go in a little bit to events, and this is where things get kind of fun, I think, is you can hook up in the car to these little devices, other wired and depending on the device you're using, wireless sensors. So really simple wiring if you're a mechanic. Really about 3 minutes of wiring if you're a mechanic. You can wire into the bus and right there, say a sleeper, or maybe a boom thing, a boom truck, or maybe a plow in the cab, not putting the sensor out there on the plow. And then we can track as an event just when that speed was down. So I was visiting with Brendan in Oregon the other day, and the manager there wants to see his goal is to reach the whole city on month. So he just keeps his one school he's got running. He just wants to see that city color up with just sweeper down data. And he knows at the end of the month, yes, you did a pretty good job, or things like hit this spot. And that's important because sometimes people spin out on a motorcycle, they'll blame you for sleep, or you have NPDEF reporting requirements for stormwater that can essentially completely automate that process. You can essentially take these things with sweepers down, make those as close reporters. And I know King County is doing that to some extent now, and putting that data into CityWorks because they have a lot of great tools for analyzing that data. So this is one event where the brush was down, green is where it started, and up until where the sweeper went. You see it tracks pretty well. So you can even do things like overlay that. So first we can put vehicles on a GIS, but we can also put features on a GIS, so we can change the condition of your GIS feature, if that's making sense to anyone here. And essentially changing the condition of my street network. Yeah, so if we pretend that, so I don't know if this is here, but pretend that GIS, my linear network, or what I'm already using to manage my county roads. Maybe I put work orders off those roads, integrated with the computer. Maybe I have ecology in there, so this road knows it's a one-way. That's the value of GIS. So I could show this feature over there. Let's say, so simple, this road is unless in month, the condition would change to west. So I go over that feature, create that GIS overlay process, saying this feature's there, then call that road west. And that's a variable in that GIS feature. It goes from one to left. Or cloud, or maybe the stormwater inlet went from uninspected to inspected. because that vehicle was there for a certain period of time. And that's where we really love to get feedback from experts in the business areas, because most of our great ideas are coming from our customers on what do you do? What's most important for you to do next? So then there's similarly a concept of point events, and that's just bringing in a point, you put a boundary around it, you decide where the radius. Just because the vehicle is near that zone, it's collecting how much time I'm spent there. So those could be customer sites, for social services. They can even be water valves, they can be anything interesting at this point. And then you get these reports like this where, how much time was I arrived at this time at 2:52, time on site at 3:52. And the interesting thing is, you really got a lot of the elements of closed work orders. So we've worked with mobile work orders a lot. You got fingers involved with work orders. Managers say they're correct about 50% of the time. Our unofficial survey, when we asked operations managers how accurate are they, 50% of the time is correct. So there's some data here that really helps you understand what's going on with this actual. There's not necessarily a human element. Then there's things like events such as idling and speeding. I think we start collecting data after a couple minutes. After a couple minutes of a vehicle sitting there idling, so we don't hit every stop sign. That's important in that version of event on the LiGO. And you can decide that I just want to know, generally how much time spent idling. I define idling as an hour. And so only after an hour does it start to report that to you as a manager as a significant idling. So any time after 2 minutes duration you can decide is idling. So we put this in Boise, and mayor there has these signs up all over, turn your engines off, please don't idle. And then we did a little pilot, and then the first day there's tons of idling going on, all the city cars, and we wrote them a little report. Next day, none. 0 significant idling in the city. That's where you get, it sounds crazy, but you can get a return on investment in a day. The stuff's not real expensive. The system relative to GIS and other systems you use, or a week. But something's wrong if it's not a month that you get a return on investment. So this example of geofence, the manager sound transit just wanted to report when a car left their circular boundary, and he got an email in his phone. And then the maintenance events, there's maintenance in LiGO, but it's not real high level. So you've got other systems like faster, and so I just left this in here because the data system engine hours, time, or odometer can be used for triggers within your other systems. Any time change or whatever. So a couple of examples of reports. So an interesting one is vehicle utilization. Some of the cars you're using, some of the vehicles are really expensive, like $500,000 and up. But even if the regular car is kind of spendy. And so this gives you a look into, you may check out a car to somebody, but you don't really know how much they're using it. So one of the immediate advantages to a lot of our customers is being able to say, well, we don't really need to buy that big rig. I checked it out to this department for a week, but the only total usage was 2 hours, or in this case, I only went 22 miles, and it was only 6 days for a month. That was, this report is for 1 month, November through December. Right? No, that's the month of November. And so you can start to move vehicles around. How to manage these, but you can use that data, or some of the bigger use that data if you really need another vehicle, or is it just a matter of evening how you're using vehicles? And then activity by area, so you have utility districts, you have billing zones, you have work area zones. In this case, the areas are parks. So I can start to look at data for parks. Now, in this case, so there's the park boundaries are in there, and for them, stopping was a good thing. Stop at work in a general way. Usually, garbage is the function here. So for a certain park, this one vehicle is supposed to be better. I can easily calculate then the total duration in that area. 2 hours in Cassius Park, hour and 45 minutes for a pool. And so you start to see, look at, that's another way of looking at work. For them, something at work. Sometimes stuff's a good thing, sometimes bad things, that's productive. And you can use that data to say, geez, we had this huge park here with all these issues, and we're spending, 1/50th of our time in that park. And you see stuff you didn't see before. And the dump zones. So apparently I've learned that dump zones and big rig wash areas are the opposite equivalent of the water cooler or coffee area. So it's, you learn a lot. So that was a management issue with total time spent in the dump zone and also the wash area. And so the manager just said, hey, it makes sense for a vehicle to be in the dump zone. This is a dump zone where these sweepers are running around picking up dirt. So he decided the issue he had at the time was tracking how much time was spent in the dump zone. He set out a goal for people, try to spend within an hour, whatever. And if there was no exception to that, inside the zone, you got a report. So it's kind of interesting. But, the immediate benefits are really obvious when you first go live, something like this. When you first go live, the sweepers are supposed to go, like one guy is going this way and the other guy goes that way for certain areas. But it's all, again, one spot. And the first day, there's a bunch of lines going that way. And the sweeper was just AWOL. So there's some huge immediate advantages. Some basic stuff. So this is an example of a report from that point of interest. This is actually inter-office mail, and so you can see they stop very, really quickly and hit each spot. And then there's the concept of an eco report. So from these things, there's a 3-axis accelerometer. If it's harsh braking or harsh acceleration or really fast cornering, it picks that up. You can decide what's important. We've got a default, what we think is kind of crazy driving that we've programmed into it. But you can sort of create that information, put that information into an eco report that looks at where the vehicle. There's also some level of risk management that you can manage. But miles per hour, speed, and create an eco report that, when you start giving out awards for folks that get the highest ranking that month or something like that. So, back to sort of an overview, we're just constantly collecting data from assets of value and consolidating that into different events that are important to people. And then a small component of that can be pushed into a GIS or into a specific field in another database. So there's 2 aspects to that. First is we expose the data on our web service, so like a sweeper down event could be an event that we're exposing on our web service. And then there's a tool that's on-premise that grabs that data and populates, usually through your business systems API. And we've worked a lot with Lucity and CityWorks and IBM Maximo and Infor. And if you're a GIS person, it's really, if you're just trying to put vehicles on a map, it's really simple just to click a button here and then get crews showing up in addition to the work orders that you've got planned, for example. So you can identify the driver. You can start to say, you know, different vehicles maybe have different equipment. So maybe you want to get closest crew, but also closest qualified crew to manage some of the ad hoc issues. You know, another important, but wasn't obvious to me when we did LiGO at first was the added value of, say, you know, you got this guy, you get finish a critical piece of work there. You got these lower priority work orders out here anyway, an hour and a half left in the day. They can then go pick up some of those lower priorities. You see where they are, and you can see where those lower priority events are, and they can pick those up. Where so that kind of ad hoc work management is sort of a nuance, but really, really valuable when you add those all up over a year of work. So with that, I'm going to switch over to a live demo and have Terry kind of go through a couple of demonstrations here.
Okay. Hopefully, Elizabeth, can you see a map up on the screen?
Yep, we good. We can hear you. We can see it.
Perfect. So I'm just going to walk through a little bit of the functionality of, I guess, LiGO for the most part, and sort of talk about the concepts of AVL and GPS telematics tracking. So this is, we're looking at right now our LiGO application. It's a hosted application, so somebody would log in with a secure password and access this application. So I'm just going to go take a look at some of the functionality and go look at some of the data we're collecting. And once again, Elizabeth talked about being able to, looking at these types of systems as a platform. So we're collecting data, connecting out to the field through our LiGO system, and then pushing data off to other critical business systems within the within an organization. So we have a number of live vehicles up here. This is a little bit of the Sound Transit system that they're using. So some of their vehicles, and so we can see them sort of moving around here on the screen live here today as we're sitting here. And over here in the is sort of our map tab, and then over here on the right we have a vehicles tab showing a number of their vehicles. A little status here indicates the green means they're on, and we can see some speed limits, speeds going on here. The red symbols mean those vehicles are off and not working currently. We're just looking at a sort of a quick snapshot of a live view of your real view of your operations in live real time. We could zoom into, you can't see here, I've right-clicked on my mouse, but I'm going to zoom into to a street level and see a particular vehicle that's going down the street. And I can, oops, went off my screen here. Follow selected. I'm going to zoom into them again. And I'm also going to take another look, a real-time view. Another way to look at your vehicles in real time is to do a street view. So this is sort of a view over here in the top. We're looking from obviously from the top down and where they are on this particular road. And then off the windshield here, the lower view is just looking out the windshield. So, sort of a real-time view of that particular crew, where they are, what they're seeing in real time, or near real time, I should say. The other thing we can do with this particular vehicle is we can, I am going to turn off this, and the other thing we can do with this particular vehicle is we can show where they've been today. So that's sort of real time, but we can say, well, where's this crew been today? So I can draw up the tracks for this vehicle today, and we can see that he's actually been quite a few places already today. So we can see that this vehicle down here in the track tab started today at 6:25 a.m. And then we have these different stopping points here. So these little circles with little times show that he stopped 21 minutes down here in, looks like at SeaTac. Obviously we know it's SeaTac, but if we didn't, we could go and look at a satellite view of that particular area as well and see that he stopped probably doing maintenance. So these are Sound Transit maintenance vehicles. Interesting thing with Sound Transit is they're actually using, tracking these vehicles, a lot of them anyhow, by drivers. So they have a number of vehicles, and they work, as you can imagine, at different shifts. And so they're using the driver ID. So there's an RFID tag, and when they get in the vehicle, they swipe their RFID button or tag, and then they're, besides tracking the vehicles by themselves, they're actually tracking by drivers. We have some reports that show these. This is a trip report, trips by vehicle and driver. So we show the vehicle here and the driver name, the date, where they started or where they ended, the distance, the odometer readings for that particular time frame. So this is, I think, was from yesterday. Some of the other reports, I'll just go through a couple of the reports here. This is sort of an odometer report. I think Elizabeth talked about that a little bit. So this could be, these reports can be generated automatically, and I'll show that here in a little bit, being set up so it's generated like a weekly and put out to a HTML or a PDF or to a CSV or a Excel spreadsheet file. The other thing that report I'll just show while I'm here is the geofence violation report. And this is the one that Elizabeth talked about of showing violations. So, you know, almost all of our customers have set up some sort of, you know, the city boundary, county boundary, state boundary, just looking at if somebody went in and out of a particular area and just sort of tracking that and as an event. So events are really business rules that you can establish, and you can set up within LiGO itself as many events as you want to. So I'm going to go over here and turn on my Sound Transit has their own district geofence that they have set up here. So I'm going to turn that on, which we can see here, and then I'm going to go back to the report. And then we're just going to go look at one of these events. So this particular vehicle started at 6:01, left the boundary at 6:01 p.m. on the 18th, and was out for 32 minutes outside of the district. So I can click on this and then go back to my map, and it shows on my map, it shows that they left the district here at this particular point in time, went over here for 23 minutes, and then came back and entered back into the district. So once again, if you really wanted to see where they went to, you could zoom in here and turn on your satellite image and see where they stopped for 23 minutes. But I am going to switch over here and bring up a little data set that we have here. So this is here in the Boise area. Show some other functionality and some other capabilities of this sort of technology. And so we're going to take a look at a particular vehicle or a particular crew here. One of the things we've been looking at sort of real-time views a little bit and starting into the historical views. So down here we have a tracks tab. So we can get on here and query historically data. With our system, we keep data online for 2 years. So I can easily define a query here of a start and stop time. So I'm going to go back, and with the city of Boise here, I think we have over a year's worth of data. So I can go back here to January of 2015, and I can hit the query button. And then I've just queried my database that's out there in the cloud. And I can go back to as far as I want and take a look at different tracks that they have out there. So you can see here, this alone gives you some metrics to help manage by. You can see that this particular crew, they start their day at 9 on the September 25th. They started at 9:27. They finished their day at 12:58, and they drove a total of 43 miles. So we can see that this particular crew, they're pretty consistent. They all start around 9 o'clock, time frame. In this particular case over here on 9/11, for whatever reason, they started at 7:43 and went a little bit longer day. So I'm not sure what happened there with some miles. So, we typically people manage by exception. So we may actually go in and take a look and see what they did in that particular day, because that's out of the ordinary kind of a thing. But we can just choose any one of these days in history and go ahead and draw those tracks. So we can see where this vehicle went on this day, which is 9/24/2015. Once again, we can see these little circles. It's where they've stopped for 5 minutes, 28 minutes over here. Sometimes we see like going back and forth, and a lot of times you see these spaghetti sort of tracks, if you will. It doesn't quite make sense. So we have a little replay button, so you can go ahead and replay the day. So, like I said, many times we'll see vehicles going back and forth, maybe to the yard, to the office, and then so a manager can take a look at it and go, well, why did you go back and forth 10 times? And, well, I forgot a report, or I forget a tool or something, so they can, anyway, get some metrics to help manage those situations as well. The other thing that we can do is we can start to track time. So there's a number of ways to track time and to some degree in work being done. One of those is through we call points of interest. Sometimes they're called landmarks. But you can set these different locations up, and then you can start to track time. In this particular case, they're actually addresses of buildings, but those may be hydrants if you're trying to track time. Work being done at a hydrant, if you have work orders set up for inspections of hydrants. Work orders set up to work on particular signs. Anyway, anything that you want that you can sort of display on there for a location, a single location, then you can load into the systems as points of interest. And you can add those individually, or you can add it into a spreadsheet, and then you can start to track the time that they're spending at those particular locations. So these are the points of interest. This is what one of the ways you can look at the report. So each one of these, this is for the 26th, which was yesterday for this particular crew. And once again, this is the mail delivery vehicle and the crew. So they started their day at 9:41, and they were at fire station number 1. They were there for a total of 1 minute, so on and so forth. This is sort of a replay of their day and tracking times that, in their particular case, their jobs or their work is visiting all these mail stops that they have to deliver mail and pick up mail. But once again, these could be fire hydrants or other kinds of assets that you may have, or things that you want to track time on. And you can get a recording of the time that they're spending at these particular locations. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my points of interest. And the other way we can track time is through the use of geofences. And I just showed that a little bit with Sound Transit with a district geofence. In this case, I'm going to do a little bit differently. This is going to be looking at parks. I'm going to zoom in here. We've got the City of Boise Park. So the City of Boise, up until this point, really doesn't have any metrics to show how much time that their crews are spending in any one park. So we set up some geofences for all the parks within the city. And now we can run a report and show how much time that they're spending in every in the park. So now they can have some metrics to sort of get an idea for how many hours that it's taking to maintain all these different parks. So this is vehicle number 7 on the November 16th. They were inside the park a number of times here. We're tracking the total hours that they spent on all these for this particular vehicle. We could break this up independently by park, sort of slice it and dice it a little differently so we can look at how much time was spent on a daily basis, a weekly basis, or a monthly basis on maintaining or work being done in those particular parks. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my geofences here. One of the other things that is a useful tool for our customers in particular is we have a tool called a proof of presence tool. So it's used in a lot of different ways, but for customer support or every city organization or private business gets questions about somebody, your vehicle, the county vehicle hit my vehicle, or my street wasn't swept, did you, or, one of your vehicles was seen at McDonald's for 4 hours yesterday, or those kinds of things. So you can just go, and most of the time there's no easy way to figure that out without sending somebody out to investigate it. But with this particular tool, it's an area search. We can pick a particular date and down to a particular time. And if we have different events, which we do, we could pick acceleration. So that if they were talking about harsh driving, we could pick a harsh driving event. In this particular case, I'm just going to do a general search and find out whether one of my city vehicles or county vehicles was in this particular area yesterday. And I guess that's for today. So I'm going to go expand my search a little bit here. So we can see that on the 26th, which I think is yesterday at 10:39, vehicle number 4 was in this particular area and left at 10:42. And I can go ahead and draw the full track there and show where it entered and where it left and the particular times that went through. And then we can get down to the individual track points. If we really want to get down to some detail, we can look at individual track points. And it shows the speed that they were at driving and the different times that they were in those particular locations. And then we have the track point tab over here. We can sort of scroll through the actual individual track points if we want to get down to the detail level. The other thing we have is talked about is tracking other events. So events, like I said, are basically business rules that you can set up, and you define what kinds of business rules, and they may be harsh driving, speeding, it may be you want to track time inside of a geofence, it may be after hours, usage of vehicles. There's any number of events that can be set up. And so I'll just take a look at some of these event rules we have set up in this particular application. But there's device unplugged, parks inside and outside, plowing events, right cornering events, different types of events that you can do. But some of the ones, the standard ones that we have generally set up are sort of idling events and then speeding events. So we can go look at an idling event here. And these events, as we set them up, we can set up to be reported out, like we were talking about earlier, and showing a number of these reports. If it's an important event, critical event, then you can set it up to send out a text to someone that's identified in there, or you could display them up on the screen as I'm doing now, showing these different events. There's a speeding event, so we're looking at this particular speeding event, when it happened, and the event rule that it triggered. And then if we want to go, we said we could go to look at and bring these out into a specific report. So here's what an example of a speeding report. So the time that it started, the vehicle name, when it finished, where it started, and address. Here's the speed limit and the vehicle speed. They were like 7 miles an hour. So all these different events, you can set it up so it only triggers when it's after 5 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour over, however you want to do it. So you're only getting the information that you need. You're not being overloaded with information. The other thing I'll show here is just as I have it up here is this is the vehicle utilization report that Elizabeth showed earlier to sort of give an idea of how much mileage is being used on every vehicle. So one of the fleet managers we work with has a customer that is adamant that he needs his own vehicle, so he was very happy to see the metrics to show that that particular customer hardly used that vehicle that was assigned to him, so he was going to recommend that he just gets a pool vehicle. So the other sort of use cases there are just sort of making sure, like with police cars or other vehicles, that they're not one vehicle is being used heavily and others are using lightly, so you can mix that up so they're all being used equally. The other types of events that we can track are linear events. So this is an example of, I know that King County, we've talked to the Road Services Division a lot about tracking plowing and spreading and their snow and ice, and also street sweeping. So these linear events, as far as work goes and tracking that, like in a work order system like CityWorks, are really hard to capture, even if you wanted to capture those events on paper. Point events like inspection of a hydrant or time spent, I guess, at a park or other kinds of things are, could be tracked on paper with paper and pencil or even in a digital system, finger-based digital system. But it's hard to sort of mark down every street that you plowed or every street or a street segment that you swept. So linear events are really hard to track using any other types of system. And with the GPS telematics system, once again, it's all this information is a machine to machine, so it's being tracked automatically. It doesn't require any human input to it. That's an example of showing some of those the street sweeping events that are going on. As Elizabeth said as well and showed in her PowerPoint, we can set up some geofences to track time inside the dump zone. So this is showing the geofence setup. So all these vehicles go in there and track. And you can see there's a vehicle live as we're showing now, just leaving the dump zone. So we can start to track those with reports. So this is showing, this is a monthly report showing miles swept by a particular vehicle. So this is Jerry, and this is for the month of December. So Jerry swept a total of 27 miles in December and an average speed of 3.9 miles per hour. The interesting thing with sweeping reports is that almost every jurisdiction in the country has a really nice ArcGIS street sweeping plan map, but really nobody's tracking what's been swept. So generally speaking, they're saying, okay, we swept all these streets in this, this district, once a month, so we multiply that times 12, and that's sort of the end. That's what our estimate of is what we're sweeping. But nobody ever tracks, or just because of not the capability to do so, the actual sweeping. So this is what's actually been swept. This counts for, storm events where they spread sand and other things down where they have to sweep up, or they have accidents that they have to go sweep. So those are unplanned sort of sweeping events. So this captures all of it, captures the speed, which is critical to sweeping. The other thing we can do is we can look at the individual sweeping events. So these are all the brush down, brush up. So through the telematics system, we're capturing whenever a brush goes down or brush goes up. It could be a blade down, blade up, or spreading kinds of things. And then we can go ahead here. There's a little map link here. We can actually go look at the individual event. So in that monthly report, all those events are all summarized into a nice monthly report. In this particular case, we are looking at one individual sweeping event. So this started down here with a green flag, broom went down, and the broom went up over here. That's one individual event. And these reports, as I mentioned earlier, can be easily set up to be automatically generated. So this street operations manager gets 5 reports in his inbox every morning at 5 a.m. from the previous day's activities. So he gets his inside the dump zone report, his inside the wash zone idling reports, and so he looks at it. And his goal with the dump zone is to try to keep their time under an hour a day, so we can see for whatever this day was, that the 23rd of December, that Stan was in there 3 times for a total of 18 minutes. Ken was in there for 5 or 6 times for a total of 31 minutes, so on and so forth. And so he looks at this report. They're all under a minute. He's good. He closes it, and he sort of moves on with his life. I'll go take a look at this particular, like I said, these are easily set up, these particular reports. So we have a number of standard reports that we provide, and then you can build customized reports. We have a number of custom reports. So I'm going to go here, just take a look at one of these custom reports. I'll do inside the dump zone that we were just looking at. And so this report here just shows some of the things we can query on. We can query on a daily, weekly, monthly, or some sort of custom-based query. You can filter on different vehicles, and you can filter on different rules that you want to filter on. And you can deliver these reports either as an HTML, CSV, or PDF type files. And then to schedule these, all you do is click this little box over here, the email schedule. In this particular case, this report's being sent out on every day of the week. And I guess Sunday through Saturday, you can pick the days you want it sent. It's actually being sent at 4 a.m., not 5 a.m. I was incorrect on that. And then the recipients that you want, so there's an email group set up with a number of people on it. In this particular case, it's being sent out as an HTML format. So if I go back to this report again and just sort of run this, show this report, so that's what the template looks like, saved out into a specific report. And if I open that up once again, all the end user sees after that template has been set up into a specific name and report is they just get to choose whether they want to run it daily, weekly, and then the day that they want to pick. So if I pick weekly, it changes my options to pick up by week. And if I wanted to run this monthly report, I would choose a month that I wanted to run this report for my database. So last thing I'm going to show here, I'm going to pass. Go ahead.
I'm going to mention about tags. So there's this concept of tags. You might set up a rule that only applies to one group, and then you assign that tag. The tag could be the definition of event. You assign that tag to just that group of vehicles. So you can have different rules applying to different vehicles versus this concept of tags. Just makes that rule stick to that vehicle or to that driver. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, so here I'm showing a number of different tags we have set up: parks and recreations, plows, vehicles, different types of tags there. We also have a number of different views. You can set up views, so if you have plow trucks or sweeper trucks, you can create your own view for those. These views are easily definable, so this whole interface can be defined. If I don't like the way this looks, I don't like my points of interest over here, I can easily drag it up and move it over here. And so I have different views here. And then I can just go ahead and save this workspace. I can give it a name like Terry's Special Workspace, or in this case, we have a number of different workspaces here. So it's the UI that you want for an individual user could be customized, easily customized, and then saved. So the last thing I'm going to show here, and I'm going to pass it over to Rhett to show the integrations to these other business systems like ArcGIS, CityWorks, and Lucity. It's just the idea of creating jobs and dispatching jobs. So I can just go ahead and create a new job. in this particular location. I can schedule that job for today, and I am just going to call it, I guess you inspect manhole. And then I can choose either the nearest or nearest without jobs. And wrong view up here, sorry. Got my wrong vehicles. So I'm going to go ahead and create that job again here. Do it for today. Elizabeth said these are really sort of simple way to create jobs and create and communicate with your field crews and send them information. I'm going to go ahead and save and dispatch this. If I come over here to my mobile application. So our mobile application can be used on tablets and smartphones, and it's a much simpler view of your data. We could show vehicles on here if we wanted to, or we could just look at the jobs that we have. So I just dispatched this job here, inspect manhole, to myself. So I've got my field crew hat on now. I'm looking at my different jobs that I have here. So I just got this new job. I may want to start that job so I can see on my map where the job is. And then I can start the job. So when I start the job, then I'm going to be starting to track time on that job. Like I said, there's a number of ways we could track time as points of interest, geofences, or jobs. And then if I want to route myself to that job, I can go ahead and route myself. So this is...
So there's two ways to look at LiGO. One is with this mobile app, which has a smaller UI, or any connected device you see the bigger screen that Terry's been working on this whole time. And so if you got a regular old phone like this, you can use Google Navigator to get to another location, or if you get this Garmin, you can use the Garmin to get to that location. It's got some things like it says turn at the next light instead of giving you the road name. But the other thing interesting is it can actually give you real-time traffic, and it will suggest an alternate route based on the traffic that's there today, which is not an issue in Boise, but in Seattle that can come in handy. So it's kind of interesting, and that's just a different key that is applied when you use the Garmin device. Go ahead, Terry. You're going to show.
I'm going to switch over to Rhett now. He's going to show the integration of collecting all this information and moving over to these other business systems and using them with other business systems.
All right, thanks, Terry. So LiGO is a platform. We're capturing data in LiGO that can then be utilized in your other corporate business systems, such as your ESRI, CityWorks, Lucity. I'm going to show three primary areas of integration. One is ESRI in LiGO. So when Terry was demonstrating, he was showing you Google Maps. So I'm going to show ESRI within the LiGO application. Then I'm going to show LiGO to ESRI, being we're capturing data in LiGO and how you can get that into maybe you might have an ESRI operational view or other ESRI-based systems that you can access that information. And lastly, I'm going to show LiGO to your corporate business systems such as CityWorks or Lucity. So as I mentioned, Terry was showing you the Google Maps. So you have the option of being able to change your core mapping system. So if you're using, say, ESRI, there's an ArcGIS option. There's also, just as a note, there's open layers, which means if you have non-ESRI and non-Google Maps, it also supports those such as OpenStreetMaps. And once you've selected your base map, then you have options to choose the layers or the services. So it does work with multiple map services on the technical side, meaning ArcGIS Server or ArcGIS Online. So you might have, for example, it might mash up street maps with your parcel layers or your parks. So for example, here we have parks in the Portland area, and as I zoom in, there's scale dependencies on these map services. So I come in closer, I might see zoning layers come on. I come in even closer, the parcel layers, or it could be other layers that you have, your, street, you might have street signs or other types of assets that are on.
Yeah, so each department has their own individual, say, ArcGIS layers that they're interested in. The assessor's office interested in parcels and other kinds of things, and obviously the DOT is interested in their layers of streets and other kinds of street and road assets, and then Parks and Recs would be interested in Parks and Recs. So each group can have their own view of the world and include their own local GIS data and maps.
So that's just to summarize, that's bringing your data, your ESRI data into LiGO from that standpoint. The next thing I'm going to show is bringing LiGO data over to ESRI. And so this could be live vehicles in ESRI. So we have a LiGO web service that allows you to bring those live vehicles into either ArcGIS Online or your ArcGIS server application and be able to see those live vehicles. So that's a real-time information coming over. Or we could have more historical data that we've captured in LiGO that also can be utilized. So in this case, this is Beaverton. They're doing street sweeping, and so they wanted to be able to have their data brought over to ESRI, and this is showing average speed per street that's swept, and the blue is where they actually swept. So you could do things such as then overlaying that with your streets to identify which streets are swept or perhaps not swept, as an example, and do more analysis. So that's LiGO to ESRI. And lastly is the LiGO to your business system. So this is CityWorks, again, being able to have live vehicles within the CityWorks. We have two vehicles here in this area, and here's a service request location. So being able to dispatch, and if you're just working from the standpoint of working, you don't want to work with another application, but you want to work with your CityWorks, you'll have access that information from that. And being able to capture things such as mileage or hours of operation or perhaps gallons of fuel and those sort of things might be of interest as well. And then I just want to show CityWorks, or Lucity as well, who we've been working with for over 10 years. Is another business system where, again, being able to integrate with not only CityWorks, but also Lucity as well. So here's a work request, and I can zoom out to see where my live vehicles are here. Looks like they're up north. They're actually parked in the. So again, CityWorks, Lucity integration are things that we can do, and of course integrate with the fleet. So if, for example, you were having information such as your fleet management and in that business system, or work orders or service requests as well. So with that, I will pass it back to Elizabeth.
Okay, thanks. So that's the end of the demo part. So, I think we've given you a pretty good, very broad kind of review of what you can do and how we've designed this to be sort of a tool that can show up in different ways across your enterprise system. We're expert integrators when it comes to geospatial data and have worked across the U.S., Canada, and Malaysia in integrating the business systems. And I think the fun thing is, you see your operations in a new way. You get to see changing conditions or the concept of auto-population of these business systems without doing anything. That's where the huge value is. And, we're looking for different business use cases that you could think of for us to make this even more successful. So that, we're all open to any questions you have, ideas that you may have for the next 15 minutes. We're here for as long as you need, but yeah, so any question. And if you think of something later, too, don't hesitate to contact us. This is my cell phone. I'm always interested in talking